Hello to everybody. It's again Vladimir Bulgarian Cowboy Vlad. You just saw my lovely new t-shirt. I just bought it. And now let's see which are the best Southpaw fighters. I'm looking back at MMA guys all around the world of MMA history and everything related to this wonderful sport. But in general, a Southpaw fighter has always been a dangerous, left-handed fighters, better known as Southpaws, throughout the history of mixed martial arts. They have caused trouble for many right-handed guys, and the history also boxing dates back to ancient Sumer, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, but Southpaw stance began with Western boxing well over 20 years ago, I think, and throughout the history it transitioned to the world of mixed martial arts. Right foot forward, left foot back. Generally, the Southpaw fighters, they're kind of opposite of a right-handed orthodox stance. Poses many potential dangers to fighters that haven't trained properly for a Southpaw. Some of the, let's say, most devastating guys will be mentioned here about our lovely MMA discussion. And we got guys, maybe some of them were not the best guys in the world, but I'm pretty much sure that you will be amazed with some names. Maybe you will disagree, you never know. But now it's time to kick off. Just to turn on my laptop. The battery is nearing the end. Hold on a sec. All right. And now I think it's time to kick off. I was looking Sherdog a lot these days, and I've seen many threads about Charles Sonnen. And I will talk about Charles Sonnen now, definitely. A wrestler, former NCAA, now one of the best analysts, BJJ black belt, for sure. But what I especially liked about Charles Sonnen, he had balls. He had trash talk and so on. But Charles Sonnen had this long right hand. Maybe he wasn't the best striker, but he had that long right hand that pretty much rocked many opponents. And he was finishing most of his battles via TKO or some of them via submissions. He was a cardio machine, but this long hand is actually a revolutionary one because Charles was a smaller guy in the division. He was not a taller dude. And Bulgaria. And Charles Sonnen was a smaller dude in this division, but this long hand, it was kind of something that was unpopular at that era because when you watch Charles Sonnen, try to look at his size and try to look at the divisions where he competed. He was definitely a smaller guy at 205. But if you don't have a reach advantage, then you must do something. And Charles' long hand was maybe the reason why he was so successful at the early stages of his era. Also against Quinton Jackson in heavyweight debut, Charles Sonnen was pretty much dominating with his long-range strikes and long-range blows. That's the reason why I put him here. I especially liked his long-range blow against Amr Sulev. Amr Sulev, one of the best. Man, I'm sorry this guy is not here with us anymore, but Amr Sulev, well, he was an amazing wrestler, but Charles was constantly rocking him with that long punch. In the end, defeated him. And that's the reason why I put Charles Sonnen on this list. But now the next one is Takanori Gomi. Takanori Gomi. The old classic gamer, the guy who was in my show who talked about Japanese guys. Well, he said Takanori Gomi is one of his favorite guys because Takanori Gomi, his family disowned him, and Takanori simply had a so strong mind. He didn't let anybody disrupt him. He didn't let anybody spoil his intentions. Takanori was a dedicated guy. But now let's focus on the Fireball Kid's wonderful, magical left hand. That's what Takanori really was. The thing that kind of inspired me with Takanori is the fact that he was doing left hand, weaving overhand right, but left hand was mostly the way to kick off the attack, which is kind of weird for southpaw fighters, because a southpaw guy normally attacks like this, right, left, but not Takanori. Takanori was attacking with left and weaving overhand right. He especially did it well against Hayato Sakurai, against Luis Azeredo too, Jens Pulver, but against Ralph Gracie, he had that brutal knee against Fabio Melo too. Got to say, I pretty much enjoyed Takanori Gomi because he had big punch, the way you say, big punch followed by a big weaving overhand right, which was kind of one of the best ways to challenge the opponent. And Takanori was not a small guy in the division. I mean, lightweight division is not stacked with many tall guys. Takanori was a middle-sized guy, but he was also a strong puncher, a strong analyst. Well, Pope the Sailor is not an MMA guy. Yeah, and he is not left-handed, correct me if I'm wrong. Now let's go forward. We got Chris Lieben. Yeah, BJJ black belt. But Chris Lieben competes also in bare knuckle bouts, which is kind of good for him because he really has that brutal left hand. He even turned the lights out so quickly on Justin Baseman, so on. But in the world of MMA, Chris Friedman is known for one thing: bang, KO punch. You know the way he KO'd Mike Swick? He turned the lights out in that inaugural WC middleweight championship title. Yeah, that was so nasty, man. Chris Lieben, he was a nasty dude, a strong guy, and Chris Lieben generally had a good advantage in the world of mixed martial arts, especially because of his strong left hand, especially because of his strong, powerful boxing abilities. I'll never forget his 2 knockouts against Terry Martin and Alessio Sakara. Chris Lieben was also a smaller guy, but one step in was solving his problems. You know, a step in. When you're a shorter guy, one step in, punch. One step in, punch. Left hook was his trademark, and got to say I pretty much enjoyed it. And now let's go follow the guy who was interviewed here. You all know Eric Anders. I had an interview with him recently, and Eric Anders pretty much confessed that he likes to box. When I asked him about the southpaw, he claimed that this is a big advantage, but you could have seen his wonderful strong strikes against Vinicius Moreira when he entered the quote 3-fight losing streak. Against Vinicius Moreira, he backed him against the cage, did one, and finished him up with a big left hand. But unfortunately, this didn't go well for him because he had to continue battering opponent on the ground. Vance Ferdinand didn't stop the match almost instantly, but despite Vinicius Moreira was there, and he showed some good left hand skills against Lyoto Machida too, the way against Natal in his debut. I've got to say that Eric Anders is a real example how an NFL guy can transition into the world of mixed martial arts, and I especially enjoyed interviewing him because of his honesty and because of the way he kind of explained me this controversial rule, because even if one hand is now on the ground, I know that this is not the fault anymore, because earlier they changed it a lot, and they changed it a lot earlier, and this was kind of weird, you know, because this rule has been changed so many times. I'm especially grateful to him. I like Tatars. If you want to ask me that question, no, I'm not Tatar, but I like them. And the next guy is Mirko Krokap. Everybody knows Mirko Krokap. When you say someone is Krokap, you know what that means? Someone delivered you a nasty left high kick to the face, and you went down like a sack of potatoes. And that's what Mirko Krokap was. But now, let's analyze it. Mirko Krokap was doing this all the time, punishing with left hand. From time to time when he was close, he was not a master of hooks. He was a master of long-range strikes. But against Mark the Hammer Coleman, he was unable to land that strong blow, because Mark Coleman was keeping hands like this, and it's impossible to throw a left high kick when someone does this. This is okay to block these two, and the problem comes because you are unable to throw a kick. So what should you do? You're opened, left uppercut. This is what should you do, and he did it with style against Mark the Hammer Coleman, especially also good against Roy Nelson, but Roy Nelson didn't go down. But we saw that Marco Crocop has some other talents aside from his devastating left high kick and low kicks. Yeah, probably one of the best kickboxers, if not the best in the world of mixed martial arts. Yeah, he has a taekwondo background, but he wasn't spinning. He was kind of left-handed guy, strictly oriented to kickboxing. And yeah, one of the best left-handed guys who have ever stepped inside the octagon. Now, Rich Ace Franklin, if you're a classic fan of this lovely sport, then you know that Rich Franklin was turning the lights out via straight left punch. This was his trademark. Now, many of you probably don't remember the fight against Nate Quarry when he fought for middleweight championship defense, but Rich did this to feint the attack, and with a long left hand, he turned the lights out on Nate Quarry. And at that era, this strike was kind of weird, because he did it too to Roberto Ramirez, and he rocked Ivan Tanner with that blow. But against the left-handed guys, many fighters at that era were making a big mistake, because they were not doing this. They did this because it's a natural movement for a right-handed guy to evade the strike. They did this, and they were getting straight into the way of that devastating punch. But Rich Franklin, he was kind of good everywhere. He was very, very strong, and his Southpaw game was kind of different until he fought Matt Hamill at UFC 88. Because at UFC 88, we've seen a strong guy who instantly switched the strategy. He switched the strategy because Matt Hamill was actually TKO'd by a body kick, which was kind of different, because that body kick landed heavily. I was thinking until then that Rich very rarely kicks. He had a kick from time to time, but he hasn't had a kick until now that stopped the fight. And yeah, unfortunately, until then. But then he switched the strategy, and it became greater. And now the best name that has ever stepped inside the octagon, of course. For me, this is the best name, and this is Blagoy Ivanov. You all know why I'm waving, a Bulgarian guy. And yeah, I also like to support this guy more than anything in the world. And Blagoy Ivanov, you can call him a tricky guy, a tricky counterpuncher. And when we look at the thorough analysis of Blagoy, we can see that Blagoy is a guy who simply won't let you breathe. I simply like him so much because Blagoy, he is simply a guy who brawls, who fights, who's ready for a war, who's ready for everything. A guy who simply wants to go forward, but also a tricky counterpuncher. And many fans believe that Blagoy Ivanov is not a guy you'd like to watch every single time, and criticize his game, also claiming that this combat sambo phenom has boring fights. But the guy who won World Sambo Championships has a really, really good background in boxing, and he is the guy who finishes fights on the ground. But what I especially like with him, do you know what he did to Junior Dos Santos? When Dos Santos was doing this all the time, and Ivanov just waved to the side, overhand left. You see? This is what he mostly does because he's a shorter guy. But Blagoy, yeah, he's one of the smallest guys at UFC heavyweight division. But he's one of the smartest guys too. Against Derek Lewis, he was constantly moving to the side, countering him, and the majority of his fights were finished via unanimous decision because of his extreme intelligence during fighting. And yeah, Blagoy Ivanov was fighting like a pro, and you see this. I'm always waving with this flag from now on when Ivanov fights, and I hope he's gonna bounce back because he didn't have a good season unfortunately. He was progressing, but against Derek Lewis, I kind of disagree that Blagoy lost this. I mean, sometimes it doesn't. Such way of fighting doesn't left good impressions on judges and scorecards. But I like to mention that Blagoy is the guy who fights really smartly and who does good weaving overhand left, also good left hook. He has good boxing base, but long range strikes are not his, are not his advantage. Blagoy is a tricky guy, a counter phenom, a counter specialist. A guy with good takedowns, with good takedown defense, a very patient fighter. Unfortunately, people don't like to watch those guys today, but he defends the honor of Bulgaria with style, and I love him because of that. So keep it up, bro. You're one of the best names Bulgaria has ever had at this lovely sport. Yeah, you're the best Bulgarian, the only ranked Bulgarian, and I hope you're gonna progress at heavyweight division ladder even more. Yeah, I hope they'll reschedule you against some of the elite names, because when you survive the match against Derek Lewis, you're the beast. You're the beast with an iron chin. Now, Diaz brothers. We will first analyze Nick Diaz. Oh man, Nick Diaz was an entertainer. He was a strong dude, but he was an entertainer. I'll never forget the way he trolled Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler. Oh man, when he entered that, he was holding his hands down, and when Robbie Lawler went to strike, Nick Diaz was insulting him all the time, challenging. He even knocked him out, man. Strong left, even strong right. Nick Diaz is a fist specialist. I've got to say, a fist specialist. But that left hand from Nick Diaz is something every fighter should have. Something definitely every fighter should have. He has good blocks and so on. But he even did it against Frank Shamrock. And to win Strikeforce welterweight championship in inaugural battle, he defeated Marius Jaromskis from Lithuania. He also did it via big left hand. And he was even giving hard time to George St. Pierre via this left hand. And George St. Pierre was forced to take him down to evade this magical left hand. So yeah, Nick Diaz, he was a strong dude. Now, looking back at his bro, Nate Diaz is not a classical brawler like Nick. I think Nate's intelligence is pretty much bigger compared to Nick's, because he's more a ground-oriented guy. He's a guy who mostly finishes fights on the ground because he's a BJJ black belt and a BJJ specialist, TUF 5 lightweight tournament winner. But what I especially like against Conor McGregor. So if you look back at the fight versus Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, alright, he was better at cardio and so on. But this is the first time I actually seeing him countering McGregor with his left hand, which was I was like, whoa, what is Nate doing? Why is he even brawling Conor? Conor has better hands, and I mean, it was undoubtable who had better hands. But I was so much happy. To see that Nate Diaz was pretty much having moments where he was outsmarting Conor McGregor, which was kind of very, 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 very weird actually, because I'd never expect someone goes into a war with Conor like this. And Nate, he has 1-2, he has tricky shots, he knows, all right, his trademark is a Stockton slap. I mean, everybody knows that. But his left hand is good. About left high kick, he attempted it on few occasions, but not in much. Now we came. The guy we love the most. He was my favorite for some period of time. It was Lyoto the Dragon Machida. Lyoto the Dragon Machida, well, he's the most powerful. He's the most powerful karateka ever to step inside the octagon. No, unfortunately. You should ask Pani the Banzai Kianzad. I can ask her about menstruation question because I'm going to interview her soon. So I promise I'll ask her and give her a reply. Now let's get back to Lyoto the Dragon Machida. And Lyoto, He had that crane kick. He had that karate strike. When you stand like this and you bounce all the time, it's pretty much very difficult to predict your movement. Kyoji Horiguchi does the same, but Kyoji Horiguchi is a right-handed guy. But Lyoto, he was always like this. He was moving left and right. He was closing in, and he didn't have regular strikes, normal strikes, and this was the reason why he was so difficult to face. He still is. I especially started loving Lyoto Machida after his head kick KO versus Mark Munoz, and this head kick landed heavily, and when that happened, I was like, whoa, a way of karate against CB Dalloway. That body kick landed Ryan Bader. Yeah, Lyoto Machida switched stance there and did it with the right hand, of course. But you know what he did? Very narrow right hand. And this is what I was talking to. Yeah, Lyoto knows to switch stances, but I'm trying to explain that Lyoto Machida is a pure karateka with very, very narrow strikes. In kickboxing, you go like this. But in karate, it's like this. You see? Very narrow strike. And this is the reason why he was excellent against Ryan Bader and against Randy Couture. That nasty crane kick. Man, he brought the world of karate into the world of mixed martial arts. And everybody knew after Lyoto Machida what karate is, especially that front kick KO against Rich Franklin. Bang. He was just step, bang. Yeah, it was with right, but he was a southpaw guy with good kicks, good hands. Maybe his teachers taught him to switch the distance and so on, and to switch stances against Vitor Belfort. That front kick was nasty. It was the reprise of his fight against Anderson the Spider Silva, because Belfort also keeps his hands a bit wide against Charles on and flying knee. Man, Lyoto Machida is the reason why I so much love left-handed guys, and yeah, it's definitely him. Now we come into division. The former two-division champion, Conor McGregor. I mean, there is no need to explain why Conor McGregor has the best left hand in the world, but he has one special move from his left hand. Now let me explain. The most of these guys were doing this ducking under, ducking in, so on. Conor, he has this back punch, back punch, back punch. This is what Conor has. He goes backwards, evades, and punches. And against Jose Aldo, Conor also showed one of the most perfect ways to counter an incoming right-handed guy, because Aldo attacked like this in a title fight. McGregor just kept his hand here. He ate a strike. I mean, he ate it here, but over the hand, and bang, straight to the chin. So yeah, McGregor, maybe he doesn't sound like a guy with strong counters, but pay better attention to Conor McGregor, because his strikes are pretty much counter-oriented, and his strong counters are a way to rock the opponents and teach them a lesson. So please pay more attention to his blows. Against Eddie Alvarez, he opened up with a left hand, finishing with the right uppercut and a series of blows on the ground. But yeah, his left hand, oh man, Aaron Janssen, Arthur Shavinsky, Perry Doherty, Mike Wood, Hugh Brady. It was just a big left hand, followed by a big left hand, followed by a big left hand against Dennis Seaver too, Chad Mendes. Man, Conor McGregor was just teaching people a lesson with that nasty left hand, finishing opponents on the ground. But walk-off knockouts, it was not just his style. Vitor the Phenom Belfort. Oh, Vitor, the old school guy. He caught my attention after that nasty victory over Tank Abbott, after that brutal win over John Hess in his first fight. But man, I started loving him after a victory over Wanderlei Silva. Wanderlei missed and Belfort, bang, 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 20 strikes. It was more than 20 strikes, finishing Wanderlei Silva at 44 seconds sound. Yeah, Belfort was a really, really strong guy with the damn good knees and damn quick punches. He even turned the lights out on Kazuo Takahashi. His left hand was just nasty. his left high kick was even nastier, and the guy who simply didn't let anyone get close to him. If you were at his range, his left hand was definitely a cemetery to many fighters. He even head kicked Dan Henderson. I mean, 2 times in a row. He's the only guy who head kicked Dan Henderson 2 times. Yeah, he was losing. He had his good moments and so on. Against Luke Rockhold, he had that spinning heel kick and punches finish. Michael Bisping was also head kicked. So yeah, Vitor's style was changed a lot because at the beginning, Vitor was a pure brawler, a pure punch and brawler, puncher and so on. And Randy Couture used it to win him 2 times. But as he was developing as a fighter, Vitor Belfort pretty much became an all-arounder, a guy who pretty much uses his kicks well, ground and pound, even punches were upgraded. Yeah, some people say it was because of TRT, but I loved watching him. I enjoyed it pretty much. So much enjoyed it. The next guy is Anderson the Spider Silva. With Anderson Silva, there have never been clear left hands. He had that nasty multi-clinch. He had taekwondo kicks. He had very, very strong kicks. BJJ ground game. But that multi-clinch was his trademark because Anderson Silva was simply not letting people get up. He was not letting them control the bout. You remember against Forrest Griffin, he was doing like this with his hand, bang, strong right. Forrest Griffin went down. Anderson, he was cocking too much, I got to say. Unfortunately, he did it, and knee to the body was also his trademark against Stephen Bonner, Charles Owen. You know that he turned the lights out on Vitor Belfort with that front kick. Knocked out James Irvin via punches, Rich Franklin, Nate Marquardt, Chris Lieben. I mean, even a reverse elbow against Tony Freakland. He was more Muay Thai oriented, but those knees were so brutal. Even a flying knee against Carlos Newton. One of the best examples of knees in the world of mixed martial arts. The next guy on our list, maybe not the best, but one of the guys who definitely deserve our attention is Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum maybe isn't a knockout artist, but after victory over Michael Bisping, he showed that he has good punches. He knows to outpunch everybody. And when he especially caught my attention? When I saw his left hand and left leg have the potential. It actually happened when I saw him head kicking Israel Adesanya in their match. Despite he lost, I was watching, and Kelvin Gastelum, he rocked him with that left high kick and unfortunately went for a takedown. He could have finished Easy Boy pretty much easier, but unfortunately he decided to go for a takedown, losing the match via unanimous decision. But that was the reason why I decided to put this lovely boy on the list. And Kelvin Gastelum pretty much, I can say, deserved to win in that match, but one mistake cost him a lot. The next guy is Darren the Gorilla Till. Well, Darren the Gorilla Till was an undefeated guy for a very, very long period of time. At the beginning of his career, he was turning the lights out on everybody. Muriel Giassi, Junior Dietz, Paulo Batista, Pedro Keller de Souza, Alexandre Pereira. I mean, even David Kobiak. Darren Till spent a lot of time in Brazil learning, I think, luta livre, and he outpunched many guys. He outpunched many opponents, and I'm pretty much a fan of him because he did a really, really good job on many occasions. Unfortunately, this didn't go well for him because he was knocked out by Jorge Masvidal, and the meat of an undefeated Brit striker was stopped. But the way he TKO'd Donald the Cowboy Cerrone, the way he outsmarted Stephen Thompson is just one of the best ways to finalize and finish the bout. And got to say that Darren the Gorilla Till was fighting very wisely against Stephen Thompson, because when he was coming close, one punch, combo movement. Darren Till really had some high quality skills with his left hand. Now the next one, Robbie Lawler. Well, maybe he wasn't the best against Nick Diaz, but Robbie Lawler is a real legend. Robbie Lawler had some of the best punches in the world. I still remember his finishes against Steve Berger and Tiki Gozan. And Palani Kovitala, it was again punches 2 times in a row. Man, Robbie was the beast. Murillo Rua, Scott Smith. Yeah, he soccer kicked Scott Smith, but Murillo Rua, well, again left hand. Melvin Manhoff KO, Matt Lindland, Josh Koscheck. He even had kicked Bobby Walker. Yeah, Robbie Lawler is a real legend of this sport, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, maybe he is now on a 3-fight losing streak, but in the early era of UFC, Robbie Lawler was especially a guy who pretty much wanted to go, how do you say, to go for the kill. Yeah, that was it. He wanted to go in for the kill and to finish everybody. The next guy is Yoel Romero. All right, Yoel Romero is also a patient guy, but I decided to put him on this list because of his wonderful flying in knockout against Chris Weidman. He was mostly finishing the fight on the ground with punches and elbows, especially against Luke Rockhold. But he also had that flying knee against Clifford Starks at his UFC debut, knockout of the night. Yoel Romero was mostly ground guy. Against Whittaker, he was going for 1-2. Against Paulo Costa, he also went for a big left hand on many occasions. He didn't wrestle. And I started loving this guy a lot because of his dedication to finish the fight and to brawl until the last dying breath. But against Paulo Costa, yeah, it was a brawl, and I was pretty much surprised because I've never seen Romero having that much cardio. This was pretty much shocking to me. Yoel Romero is a strong beast, but not a cardio machine. In the last match, he looked like a real cardio machine. He didn't fatigue that much, but he was missing weight over and over, which might even cost him a title. And maybe he should go one division up. You never know. Now we reached 2 lovely girls on our list. Holly Holm and Valentina Shevchenko. Holly Holm, the former boxer. I don't know whether she boxes professionally now or not, but she had a great career under her belt. And Holly Holm, man, she had so many left kicks. Let's see. Christina Domke, leg kicks, TKO. Jan Finney, however, TKO, body kick, left body kick. Katie Merrill, TKO punches after a left high kick. Alana Jones, left high kick. Nikki Knudsen, left body kick and knees. Man. Juliana Werner, KO, head kick, Legacy FC Women's Bantamweight Championship. Against Raquel Pennington, Marlon Renault, she was landing this. She was landing 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Left high kick, left body kick, right body kick. It was awesome. And she turned the lights out. She crocked up to Ronda Rousey, man. Ronda was trying to grapple, but bang, 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 all the time. 1-2. And big left. Ronda didn't know what to do. She even head kicked Beth Correa. Unfortunately, in her last match, her knockout loss happened against Holly Holm. Against Amanda Nunes, but I enjoyed Holly Holm, man. I still enjoy it, and I hope she'll bounce back with a win over Raquel Pennington. Yeah, Raquel Pennington is a tough cookie. Unfortunately, she is a tough cookie, and split decision once. We're gonna see, Valentina Shevchenko. If you watch her kickboxing bouts, Valentina Shevchenko's kickboxing bouts, then you have probably seen that her kickboxing bouts were one of the best ways to demonstrate the brutal power of Taekwondo, because she was countering everybody whenever they go left spinning back fist, left punch, left spinning back kick, left spinning heel kick. Valentina was pretty much dominant with that. I enjoyed her movements and her strikes. But looking back at the world of mixed martial arts, yeah, she finished many fights on the ground via a naked choke or an armbar. But if you take take a good analysis of her bouts, then you'll notice that she goes forward or ducks to the right side and goes with a strong punch, strong hooks. Also, Superman from time to time. And the fact I like the most, left high kick, the way she crocked up Jessica Ai in the second round, defending the UFC Women's Flyweight Championship. If you analyze her thoroughly, you'll see that she is a great taekwondoka and a great kickboxer. And the reason why I love her so much is because of her southpaw stance. But yeah, I mean, if I missed someone, feel free to add to the list and so on. Now I have some other obligations because ONE FC is kicking off soon, and yeah, there will be entertaining bouts and so on. But I'm glad I shared my passion with you. Thank you for lovely comments and keep following me.